All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Workshop Wednesday. Today we are going to be talking about pooping in the woods. My name is Kathrine. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm a trip leader at the outdoor program.
And my name is Carl Snyder. I'm also a trip leader at the outdoor program, he, him, his pronouns. So we're here to talk about pooping. Very exciting topic, and especially I think for people that are familiar with this process, know how much fun it can be once you kind of get over the initial angst about it. I think a lot of people that are new to pooping in the woods or haven't done it before, it's very scary. It's kind of like a hurdle in terms of doing longer trips in more wilderness places for a lot of people. And we hope that this presentation can maybe help some people know exactly what they need to do and how to do it to make sure that they are hygienic and having a good time even while they're out there going to the bathroom. Okay, so here we're going to quick do an outline of kind of the talk. So why are we talking about this? I kind of did a real brief, but we'll go into a little bit longer conversation about that. And we're going to talk about leave no trace principles and, kind of how that applies specifically to this trip or this presentation. And then we're going to go into the pooping protocols. So basically what is actually involved in the whole process. So we're going to go into the materials you need, location, like where can you do it? Where should you do it? The distinction between cat hole versus wag bag, and those different techniques or types of going to the bathroom in nature, the different positions that you can attempt to be using. Everybody has their own kind of feel or like ways that they like to do it, and so it's kind of up to every individual maybe to test them out. The cleanup process, making sure you're staying hygienic. And then also the last little bit, we're going to also talk a little bit about peeing in nature as well. And so another thing I want to highlight here at this point is this all is very much, talking about pooping in the woods, not if there's a pit toilet or some sort of, infrastructure or facility to go to the bathroom, but, you're going in a hole out in nature or you're going into a bag basically, and you're carrying it out with you. Okay, so now with that, let's go into why talk about poop. So the first thing and point out is that everybody does this. And so it's something that's kind of built into our culture, but also built into our culture is not talking about it because it's kind of gross and a little taboo. And so we avoid it as a conversation, but it's super important to talk about. We all do it. It's nothing that we don't already experience every day of our lives. And so even if you don't want to, you're going to be pooping. And this is a great gift from Parks and Rec. Y'all don't know. And so the other part about why we're talking about this is because it's a health hazard to, or it's maybe not a hazard, but it can be a hazard to not talk about it. If you're going out into nature with people and you don't feel comfortable having these conversations and making sure that people know how to properly, hygienically use the restrooms out there or go to the restroom out there or go to the bathroom, that can become a health hazard. And also when you go to the doctor or some other place and they kind of ask you questions, one of the things is asking you about your bowel movements or peeing. And so it's a good checkpoint of how is your health? So being able to talk about it is important. And so then the final reason why it's good to talk about, here's kind of this diagram. So the x-axis is satisfaction. So how much satisfaction are you getting out of your pooping experience? And then the y-axis is how difficult is it? How much work do you have to put in to do it? And this kind of gives us a sense of, the spectrum or the gradients within which you might experience going to the bathroom in specifically in nature a little bit more. We also have the home toilet and the pit toilet as well. So I guess a little bit more even broad than that. But and so as you get more experienced, you want to generally, again, kind of be at the higher satisfaction. And with the experience and the knowledge that we're hoping to give you, you can hopefully kind of be in that high satisfaction range, lower difficulty experiences. And so, again, when we're out there, once you kind of have the basics down, it starts to be kind of fun to try to increase your satisfaction and increase the amount of joy that you get out of where you're using the restroom or going to the restroom. And so here's a couple of doggos enjoying their bathroom positions and beautiful places and great scenery. And so for me, I know that this has been something that I like to think about. And when I've been out in nature and been able to go to the bathroom, I've had a few experiences where it's great scenery. One time when I was at the outdoor program, we went up to Mount St. Helens doing a staff training, and I had to go to the bathroom early in the morning, and the sun was rising, and we had great views of Mount Hood and the kind of the sun in all the shadows, and kind of the orange tint of the sunrise was like super beautiful and peaceful, and was very enjoyable. And so we hope again that that's kind of a place that you might be able to get to with the knowledge that we're giving here today. And so here I'm going to, after this, I have a slide where it's a short video from a show that I like that kind of demonstrates an idyllic nature-bound bathroom experience from Rick and Morty. Here we go.
He's gonna go poop. When Grandpa pats his belly like that and leaves without wording, it means he's going to go poop. He's a shy pooper. He has a secret pooping place.
All right. I hope you all enjoyed that, and some point in the near future, you can find your own place to go to the bathroom as beautiful as Rick did there. Okay, and I'm gonna hand it off to Kathrine.
Perfect. All right. So for those of you who aren't familiar with these 7 leave no trace principles, these are basically just 7 things that we always are trying to keep in mind when we're outside enjoying the outdoors. And some of these relate more than others to this particular talk of how to, properly poop in the woods. But I'm just going to kind of go through these 7 and talk about how we can keep them in our minds when we are going about our business. So the first principle is to plan ahead and prepare. And this totally relates because you want to make sure you're doing your research to know like whether there is going to be a pit toilet or like a restroom at the trailhead that you can use before going out on whatever adventure you have planned. Also being, planning ahead and preparing in terms of the equipment that you're going to be bringing with you. We'll get a little bit more into the materials and everything in a little bit, but just it's important to know, like whether there is even like, if there's snow or not, or if it's even accessible for you to, be digging a hole versus having to use a wag bag. Like those are things that you want to make sure you're planning ahead so that you can prepare with the proper materials. Travel and camp on durable surfaces. This is something to keep in mind, when you're going off to find your spot off of the trail, still being mindful of not stepping on shrubs and that sort of thing. Dispose of waste properly relates quite well. And so that's, making sure that you're packing out your toilet paper and that sort of thing. Leave what you find. Minimize campfire impacts. Doesn't really quite relate as much to using the bathroom in the wilderness, but respecting wildlife, you want to be aware of their spaces and and that sort of thing, and being considerate of other visitors, wanting to make sure that you're well enough off the trail, off of water sources and that sort of thing. So yeah, these are just the 7 principles for leaving no trace, and they're really important to keep in mind in all of your outdoor adventures, including going to the bathroom in the wilderness. So now we're going to get a little bit more into pooping protocol. So here's a little overview slide where step 1 is to be prepared. In a second, I'll go more in depth into the supplies that you'll need, but the essentials are hand sanitizer, toilet paper, a latrine trowel, and a sealable plastic bag. So step 2, once you're prepared with your materials, is to find the spot. And Carl will be going a little bit more into this in depth as well. But the important things to know are to make sure that you're carrying all your supplies 200 feet or about 70 steps away from any trails, any campsites, or any water sources. You want to choose a nice underbrush so that you can have some privacy. And then you're going to dig a hole about 4 inches wide and 6 to 8 inches deep. Then step 3, do your business, and we'll get more into the positions and that sort of the methods. Step 4 is to wipe. You want to use as little toilet paper as possible, and you do want to pack that away into a waste pack. You don't want to just leave that because it'll interfere with the ability for everything to biodegrade. And then step 5, you're going to cover it with the original dirt that you had scooped out of the hole. Just put that back. And you can, a little pro tip is to have a little stick or a rock or something on top to let other humans know that you have already used that spot, and also perhaps to dissuade wildlife from digging into there as well. And then step 6, super important, make sure you wash your hands. You want to be hygienic and make sure that you're staying healthy when you're out in the backcountry. So make sure that you use that hand sanitizer or wash with soap and water if available to clean up after. So here are the prescribed provisions, the necessary materials that you're going to need. The first one there, you can see the photo, bottom left, is a trowel. This is what you're going to use to dig the hole. And then material number 2, toilet paper, obviously very important. And then 3 is going to be an airtight opaque bag. They do make these that you can buy specifically for this purpose, but you can also DIY it by just like covering a plastic Ziploc bag that's airtight sealable with like some duct tape. So that you can turn it into something that's opaque. But what this is for is basically just for you to pack out like the toilet paper that you are using. And then number 4 right there, got some hand sanitizer, very important. And then Carl's going to get a little bit more into this when we get into the methods, but waste alleviation and gelling, or a Wag Bag, is another material that you might be using.
Awesome. Thank you, Kathrine. Okay, so I'm going to kind of go over the rest of the protocol stuff. So as mentioned before, it's super important that you pick a good location. And one of the main things to think about when location is you want to be 200 feet, and again, approximately 70 steps away from water sources or where you're camping or your kitchen area. Okay, so it's good when you get to a place, set up camp, if you're backpacking or something like this, or if you're rafting, that you kind of know, maybe scout out a good kind of region to start to head towards the bathroom area. And so kind of people know that that's kind of more the bathroom area, and having kitchen, and again, where you're tenting far away from there. Something to mention also is, certain agencies that are, in control of the land that you're on, they actually, especially for larger rivers, might actually encourage people to pee, not poop, obviously, into the river if it's a larger body of water. So again, that's kind of making sure you're doing that planning ahead, understanding whatever agency is in charge of the land that you're on, what their policies are. And yeah, again, you can kind of pace this all out by just counting 70 steps wherever you're at. Okay, and so another thing about location is you're going to want to pick a spot that has nice loose soil, and also that gets a decent amount of sun. And so the combination of these two things allows your poop to decompose faster. And so, the more fertile and loose the soil is, the faster it'll decompose. And also, if you have a little bit of sun hitting that area, it'll decompose faster as well. And so the other side of that is you want to avoid roots or rocks, because obviously it's hard to dig in those places. And then also decomposing doesn't happen as quickly. And so generally on the left-hand side, you want this. On the right-hand side, you don't want that. I don't know how this is going to be oriented. Maybe it's going to be flipped in the video. I hope not for y'all watching this, but it's my left and my right. Okay, so then actually digging the cat hole. So one of the two options for actually going to the bathroom is either digging the cat hole, and again, that's picking those locations, and is when you're going to be digging the cat hole. When you're doing the Wag Bag, you don't have to really think about that as much. because you're carrying that stuff out with you. But so with the cat hole, you're going to want to dig something that's 4 to 8 inches deep and 4 to 6 inches wide. And so the nice thing about these trowels is almost all of them, all the ones that I've seen anyways, the actual shovel portion of it is 6 inches. And so you can use that as kind of a measuring tool. And so for me, I'm a little bit bigger. And generally when I'm in the outdoors, I find that my poops are also large. And so I generally am on the, like, I like to dig a little bigger, deeper and wider. Everybody has their own poop type and size. And so you'll figure out what's good for you. I would say if it's your first time going out there, be cautious and make it a little bit bigger. And then if you're like, oh, I had a lot of space and I had to bury it, and there was still 6 inches of dirt on top of it, then maybe next time don't dig it quite as far. Maybe dig it to 4 or 5 or 6 inches, because the further you want to around 2 inches of soil, 2 to 3 inches in soil on top, maybe 2 to 4, I think, because if you go any further, it doesn't decompose as fast, and that sun doesn't have the effect that it does for decomposition if you don't. All right. And so then the Wag Bag. So that's the other side. So the Wag Bag is literally a bag that you can unravel and open up, and then you squat over the bag and you poop into the bag, and then you put your toilet paper in there as well. And there's this waste alleviation and gelling. So the gelling is done by this like silicone bead type material that's in there, and so that kind of solidifies all of it and kind of sucks all the moisture out, makes it a little less gross. Still very gross, obviously. But these bags are very, sealed tightly. And so then you put it back in your pack and you can pack out with it. All right. So then I'm going to go to this next slide. And this next slide is a video that's someone demonstrating kind of what it actually looks like. Unfortunately, we didn't have one with us, and it's just kind of harder to demonstrate with the spaces that we are occupying right now. Okay, so here's a nice short little video on how to use a Wag Bag.
Somebody give me a Wag Bag. What's going on, guys? Devin here with Backcountry Exposure, being silly out here in the woods today, but I want to introduce you to 2-Minute Mondays. We're going to do 2-minute videos every single Monday, and today's first topic is going to be how to use a Wag Bag instead of digging a cat hole when you are in specific areas that don't allow you to bury your fecal matter, your human waste, and you have to carry out and poop into a bag. So we're going to talk about the awesomeness that is Wag Bags today. So again, using a Wag Bag is something that is super important and definitely is required in various areas around the country because of overuse and people not taking care of where they choose to use the bathroom. This is not something that is really all that scary. It's not all that bad. What you've got is a big container here that allows you to capture all of that fun stuff. You've got a little hand wipe as well as a fairly generous amount of toilet paper. Definitely something that is beneficial. But basically, you've got this big garbage bag that allows you to be able to pull these tabs here so you can close it up. I'll show you that here in a second. But if you open this up, you're going to see some like silica stuff down here in the bottom. You might not be able to see that. But basically what this does is solidify any of the human waste that goes down in the bag. So all you're going to do, instead of digging a cat hole, you've already got your cat hole right here. When I need to do my business, I'm going to open up my Wag Bag all the way. And this is the nice thing. I don't really have to squat all that much. Just gonna open up the bag, stick it underneath, do my duty, and call it good. Then get myself all cleaned up. I'm gonna pull the tab here, just like you would with your garbage bag at home. Tie that thing off, roll it up. The best part of this, close it up with the other like zipper and turn your head away as you push the air out. That's the fun part. Then you just fold this baby up, shove it down in your pack, and that's how you use a Wag Bag, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button. Leave your comments down below.
Awesome. All right. So just wanted to highlight a couple of things from that quickly. First and foremost, as he'd mentioned, it's good to look up or the places that you're going. Again, facilities, what they have, but also whether they say you need to be using Wag Bags or not. Some places that is mandatory, and so you should know that ahead of time so you can purchase them. And then the other thing is it's not, that is the least fun part, is pressing the air out, but it's also super important because a lot of the microbes in your bowel movements, in your stool, they are able to make things a lot stinkier and start to the decomposition process a little sooner than you would like with the extra oxygen in there. So if you get the air out of there, it can kind of slow down that process, and so it can get a little less funky. And also then just take up less space in your pack. All right, so then the next, oh, that's not what I wanted.
Somebody give me a wag.
Ooh. Okay, so now on to positions. Okay.
All right, so here we have a lovely diagram of, showing the many and varied options that you have for the positions that you may assume when doing your business in the woods. Ultimately, it's just really up to you of what you feel most comfortable and confident in using. And so, yeah, it's, everyone kind of has their own approach. I tend to go for something more along the lines of like the catcher, which is kind of just like a deeper squat. And then I'll like kind of pull my pants to about like my knees. But everyone kind of has their own preference, and whether, it's down to the ankles, that just kind of makes me nervous because then like, your pants are down there on the ground dangerously close. Some people just take their pants off entirely. It's totally up to you. But yeah, you can, as you go, you can try out different positions and see what strikes your fancy most. But yeah. And so then with cleaning up after, we talked a little bit about how you will be bringing toilet paper, and it's really important to make sure that you're packing that out. But yeah, here we have a diagram of two different photos of different approaches that you can use for how to properly and hygienically clean up yourself after. And if you will click the next slide, you will see that yes, on the left, that is the correct approach, and on the right, not so much. So what you can use obviously the toilet paper that you've brought. You can also use some of the natural tools that you may find, like a nice wide leaf or even a rock. But it's just important to make sure that the leaf isn't poisonous and all that jazz. But yes, or you can use toilet paper and just make sure that you're packing that out as well. So yes, you can see here's like a DIY version of that bag, like that Ziploc bag with duct tape that we were talking about earlier. And so it's really important that you make sure that you pack the toilet paper out, because it will not degrade as quickly, and it'll also slow down the the process of your poop degrading as well.
I just want to point something out real quick. So this waste bag is different than the Wag Bag. So the Wag Bag allows you to poop into it, but if you don't have a Wag Bag, you still need this waste bag if you're going to be using a cat hole to put your toilet paper in. You're not supposed to put your toilet paper in the cat hole. Okay, I just wanted to do that quick.
Super important. Yeah, thank you, Carl. So yeah, ultimately at the end of the day, whether you're using a Wag Bag or a cat hole, you are going to have a bag that you're packing out something with regardless, and it's really important that you do that. So yes, thank you. And so here we can see a little demonstration of some photos of the cat hole when you're cleaning up. So you can see in that upper left first photo, they are showing the trowel as like a relative size so that you can see the size of that hole. And then next to it, it looks like there's toilet paper in there, which they might just be using as like a bad example. But again, just to emphasize, we don't want to be burying the toilet paper in there as well. And so this is just kind of to show, like, if maybe, you know, you missed the hole, then that's totally fine. So you can see in the upper right picture, they have some sticks that are representing the poop. And then in the bottom left, a stick that represents a stick is then just, you know, gently nudging everything back into the hole there. And then covered up with some natural materials. When you have refilled the soil that you had originally dug out, just replacing that, and then covering up with some natural materials on top there. So yeah, here you can see you know, step one, you've dug the dirt out of the hole, and then after you have done your business, then you're going to replace that same dirt back into the hole. Then you're going to take some of those like stones or twigs or leaves or whatever and put that back over to kind of replace it as you had found it.
And one other thing I do want to add is I think this kind of shows smaller sticks and stones, but if you have some larger stones or sticks that you can put there as well, because that'll help make sure that animals don't get into it. If you have like a nice, you know, small rock that you can move on top of it, and also maybe, you know, we'll make sure then people won't try to also then go to the bathroom in that same place or, you know, be doing something right there.
Sweet. And then finally, just want to make sure that you wash your hands really well. You're likely not going to have access to like soap and water if you're in the backcountry. So it's really just really important to make sure that you take time to thoroughly sanitize your hands with the hand sanitizer that you've brought. But yeah, hygiene still super important, even in the woods. Okay, so now we're just gonna do kind of a little nod or aside to peeing because, you know, closely related to pooping as well. And I'm just gonna talk a little bit about what that looks like for ladies. It's a little bit of a different experience. They do actually make devices that allow you, I forget what they're called, but that will allow you to, you know, pee standing up and everything. But if you don't want to use that, then just some kind of things to keep in mind. Your position is probably going to be pretty similar to position of pooping, but you don't need to dig a hole or anything for peeing. But the things that you do want to keep in mind is if you're on a slope or just, you know, paying mind to the slope or whatever of the ground, you want to make sure that you've positioned yourself in a way that your pee is not going to like just like kind of spill back on your feet or laces or anything like that. Also being mindful of wind and that sort of thing. And then as for cleaning up after, you can just use toilet paper like you would for pooping as well, and then packing that out as well. Or what you can do is get a bandana or just like a pee cloth is what you would call it, but it's basically just like a bandana that you'll use, and you can just tie it to the outside of your pack. And those UV rays will actually help to sanitize it. And so it is still hygienic, but or you can just kind of do like the shake off approach, whatever you're most comfortable with. But yeah, just wanted to give kind of a little side to peeing because it's also something that, you know, related to pooping is an important thing to be wary of when you're in the backcountry.
Awesome. Thank you for that about all of those things, Kathrine. And thank you everybody for listening in. And we hope you learned something from all this information that we have now disseminated.
Sweet. Thank you all.